Good morning, everybody, and welcome to State Planning and Community Affairs. This is our first meeting of the year, so I appreciate everybody being here this morning bright and early. I know that we've got things back to back to back, and some of us have two meetings at 8 o'clock this morning, so we're going to move along as fast as we can. Representative Campbell, would you open us with prayer, please?
Father, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity you've given us to serve the people of the state. And we just thank you for that. We seek your guidance and your wisdom in all that we do. And we follow your way. Pray bless this meeting in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Representative Carpenter, HB 689.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. So I'm bringing before you a measure that you guys passed out last year, obviously that got sent back down after the session from rules. And it just basically does the same thing it did last year. It opens a area of the Homeless Trust Fund for homelessness prevention. Our concern last year was that the ARPA money was going to run out at the end of September. Clearly that money has run out, and with rising inflation, et cetera, we've got people all over the state and in our metro areas across the state that are homeless or facing eviction. I come at this from an interesting perspective because as the speaker put me on appropriations this year, and I get to look at appropriations and see how much money it costs us when people are incarcerated, or how much it costs us to help people with mental health, or to house children in YDC. And those numbers are so astronomical, it would just, to me, make so much more fiscal sense to address it on the front end. Because we know that once eviction occurs, it steamrolls societal problems moving forward. And so that's why I bring this bill today, is to say we need to start having the prevention conversation. It's a whole lot more affordable to deal with things on the front side than after the fact. We know that children perform better in school, move forward in life when not faced with such tragedies, et cetera. And so that's why we have this bill before you today. It does exactly the same thing as last year. It literally just says that it allows DCA to add prevention to the Homeless Trust Fund. It does not put additional money in there. That would obviously have to be appropriated, but it does allow them to do so moving forward. We saw a huge need at the end of, in 23, 24, and got a lot of support around the state from both sides of the aisle on this issue, because we understand that the need is continuing to get bigger until housing costs come down. We need to make sure that we're focused on trying to prevent homelessness. So I'll be glad to take any questions. I have Elizabeth Appleby with me today. She has she's very passionate about this issue, I think, as many of you know, and the organizations behind us as well. But I think it's time that we have the conversation that it's more fiscally responsible to address these things on the front side. So I'll be glad to take any questions.
Thank you, Representative. Okay, thank you. Yes, I agree with you. We've had some major conversations in DC last night in DBHDD appropriations. So yes, this is very appropriate and very timely. Representative Berry, would you like to be first, please?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Rep. Carpenter, for this bill. This is a great bill. I think that would do a lot of work. Just my quick question, will this give DCA the ability to work with other nonprofit organizations as well that already have done the work, with it offer collaboration?
Yeah, that's right. So this wouldn't be, DCA would not become the boots on the ground on this program. It would literally just access the various organizations around the state that are involved in this type work already. Mm-hmm. We're not creating a new infrastructure. It's just saying that we need to also, not only do do they focus on homelessness, but let's focus on homelessness prevention as well. And so in my community, we have a thing called Dock Up, and it actually was created through all the churches in town, created this one organization, because you have people bouncing around to various organizations, various churches, and asking for money. So when we put it under one umbrella, it makes sure that we're vetting individuals and they're not abusing the system. And that to me is the most efficient way to do it, have a centralized, location for this, so that people, it stretches the dollars. We don't want this to be abused, but we do want to make sure we get money in the hands of the people that need it, obviously for the societal cost of homelessness. So,
I agree with you 100%. Thank you. Look forward to
yes,
supporting
sir.
this.
Mm-hmm.
Representative Jones?
Thank you so much for the bill, Chairman. My question is really simple. Have you, since you're on appropriations, have you guys looked at what it may forecast, what the amount forecast may be for the appropriation budget in the future?
I mean, the need's endless. I
Mhm.
mean, at this current stage, with rising costs, et cetera, wages aren't keeping up with the cost of housing. We are seeing some housing come down. I think nationwide the price is coming down, and the real way to attack housing pricing is, of course, building more. Supply side's the issue, I believe, because eventually it brings it all down. But I mean, we'll never touch the need. But I do think it's important as a state to say, we need to be moving in a direction where we at least understand it's a lot more affordable to deal with it on the front side.
Yeah, I agree. May I ask another question?
Yes, please, Bobby.
The next question that I have is, he asked about, Representative Berry asked about collaborating with other organizations, and as you're working with nonprofits, will there be any qualification standards that will be a part of this?
Yeah, absolutely, there will be. And this was, all this really began for the state of Georgia when the ARPA money came down, and the infrastructure's already in place. Obviously, that money's dried up, and it's important to try to figure out a way to backfill some of it. We're never going to backfill all of it; never going to happen. But making a movement towards backfilling it, I think, is important. Yeah. And I like your glasses, by the way. So stylish.
Representative McLean?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to say thank you for the bill too as well. I want to say Representative Jones, she asked my question, so Madam Chair, I'd like to say at the appropriate time, I'd like to do pass.
Representative Stinson?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have more of a comment. Thank you again for your work on this bill. But just to add to the conversation, community action agencies. Have you had any work with any community action agencies
I
or the
haven't.
Georgia Community Action Agency Association? And the reason I bring them up because they receive somebody need to make a note of this, Community Service Block Grants, CSBG. And those are funds from the federal government that passes down through the state of Georgia through the Georgia Department of Human Services. And those funds, the Department of Human Services enter into contracts with these community action agencies across the state. There's approximately 20 of them across the state. And all of them are required to submit a community service plan to the Georgia Department of Human Services. And some of them have in their plan addressing housing issues in their community. And if they have that in their plan, then those funds have to be used for housing. So I just wanted to put that out for everyone to be aware of, and that's something I think everyone should inquire about and learn about, because that is money coming directly into our communities that have a direct impact for our constituents. And so we as state legislators and organizations that are doing the work, the real boots on the ground, need to be aware of that.
Thank you for that, shining a light on that. And I'm sure Miss Elizabeth knows all about that. She looks like she's well versed in such things.
Yes, she does.
Appreciate you.
Yes, she does. Representative Griffin?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you for bringing this bill. I guess my question is, we passed it out last year, good bill. If it had gone to the floor, I would have supported it. Did it come, and I know we can run out of time, so is that basically what happened last time? Did you get it out of rules?
No, didn't get out of rules. You know, that's not my purview.
Right.
I just throw stuff out and hopefully it sticks, and sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But we'll just keep trying to climb the hill, just like
Well-
every other piece of legislation I have right now.
Well, if
I
anyway,
do the best I can with it.
if any way I can help you after it leaves this body and go to rules, I'd be glad to do
Okay.
that.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
Representative Kahan?
Good morning. Thank
Good-
you for this bill.
Good
Talked
morning.
about
Like your glasses as well. We're all getting older. We got to have get our readers on. Can't
That's
see
right.
no more. I mean, geez.
especially this early. Thank you for this bill, much needed across the state. I'm concerned, however, that we have a lot of community organizations and local organizations that are doing this good work already. So when we grow government, it becomes redundant and doesn't have the effects that we usually want. How many employees will we need for this? What type of oversight will there be? We just had unfortunate situation with the Atlanta Housing Authority. $300,000 didn't go towards homelessness projects that it should have gone towards. So I'm always worried that we have bigger government and we just don't have the oversight. And a second one, what programs do we currently have that this bill will provide that we don't already have?
Sure. So I don't know that we're going to create any new programs. I think the infrastructure is there. I'm not sure that this grows from an employment level more people at DCA. I think that the infrastructure is already in place. I too have the concerns that you have, that we need to make sure that we're vetting these organizations, especially if it's a big piece of it. This piece is real specific about making sure we're spreading that money out all over the state as well geographically. And it's just, to me, it's just like anything else. We want locals to have skin in the game, but having matching funds like that, to me, is the best way to, as a state, to spend. If you're going to do spending, making sure people have skin in the game, so you actually get better bang for your buck for the taxpayer. So I hear your concerns, though. I'm concerned as well to make sure that this is going to where it's supposed to go and not just salaries, et cetera.
Sure.
You said endless. That always worries me when the government says something about endless. Did you mean endless funding?
No, I'm saying that the need is endless,
Okay.
not the endless funding. I'm just saying, so for instance, the Atlanta Regional Coalition of Health Improvement, there were 86,000 applications received. This is when they had money, and they were only able to fill 1,600 of them. So what I'm saying is, this is not going to solve everybody's problems. But I do think it's important that we move in a direction where we're saying this is an issue and it's a whole lot more fiscally conservative to address it on the front side than trying to fix it on the back side.
Is there an audit provision in the bill?
There is through DCA, their current audit process. It just allows it to fall under what they're doing currently. And obviously, there's contracts involved in making sure that they're following those contracts, et cetera. So I would imagine that if it's a major issue like what we've seen, there should be some clawback from DCA for
Just
those
last
funds.
month, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go on, everybody, your agenda does not reflect House Bill 753. It got added a little late. That will be hearing only, so please, if you guys can hang around for that one. Representative Byrd?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Representative, thanks for this bill. There are lots of people that have suffered through the increase of inflation and all those sorts of things, and there are many families that are struggling, and not necessarily homeless, but struggling to make their mortgages as well. And however they make those decisions to fund themselves and pay for their rents and mortgages, I applaud them for whatever they do. So my concern is that we know that in government they don't have any money other than taxpayer money that comes in to take care of these needs, correct?
Sure, yeah, yeah.
So is this not true that this would really be robbing Peter to pay Paul for those individuals that also suffer but don't claim homelessness? And it is concerning to me that we will put money into this fund for homelessness. And also kind of concerned, do we have a definition of what homelessness is? So does everyone get to come and apply for these funds, or are we vetting each and every one of them?
Sure. So I would think after hearing you discuss the bill, this is actually this is what this bill is trying to do. This is not about people that are already homeless. This is about the people you're talking about that are struggling to pay their mortgage to help those people. So this would actually create a vehicle to do the very thing that you're saying that people need. To me, that's the point is, people that are trying to make their mortgage but maybe a little short, this allows these community organizations to set up a process to help them. You know, let's say it's $300 to make your rent, or $400 to help you get over the hump. Those type situations are, like I said, a whole lot more fiscally conservative for the state versus having to deal with the societal consequences on the backside. So that's exactly what this bill seeks to do, is to help people that are on the verge, so that you prevent them from being homeless.
Go ahead.
So always I ask this question, is this the proper role of government for us to be using our taxpayer dollars to help those individuals? Is it not the churches and synagogues and those individuals to help take care of that, those types of persons that need this type of help?
I mean, that's surely a philosophical conversation to be had, for sure. I would argue that the state's paying for the consequences, whether we like it or not. We're going to pay for the consequences of this. So is it better? You know, it's just like going to the dentist and getting your teeth cleaned. Is it cheaper if you're paying for it one way or the other, is it cheaper to go get your teeth cleaned once every 6 months, or is it cheaper to go in and get a root canal? And I would argue that society, state government, federal government are going to be paying for the consequences of this, and it's much more affordable on the front side. And that's the argument from a Republican side.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Byrd, I think when you hear Ms. Apley, I had the exact same question. Is there a definition of homelessness? And I think when you hear Ms. Apley, you're going to have a lot of your questions answered. She's kind of the expert, but she'll be speaking to that, and I think
I would
that'll
say
help you.
homelessness is without home.
Well, there's more to it
I know,
even
but
than, yes.
keep it simple.
And
Without shelter.
When we give her time, I'm sure she will go over that, and I think that'll help you. Representative Camp?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thank you so much, Chairman Carpenter, for bringing this bill. I was reading this bill yesterday, and I had a conversation with a juvenile court judge about the impact on children when situational poverty takes place. Not forever poverty in a family, but generational or long-term, but situational, loss of a job, divorce, death, different things that happen in families. And he was explaining to me that in those situations, oftentimes the state does get involved for the welfare of children, if children are involved, because they go from being in a home and suddenly they're in a car. And the parents are doing the best they can because they don't have a home, but mandated reporters do report the children are coming to school dirty. Or maybe the children are coming into school hungry because they haven't enrolled in free and reduced lunch programs yet because of the situational situation. And sometimes these children do go into state custody because the state can't allow children just to live in a car. And so then we have to have reunification plans for these parents to help get them back with their kids, because this is a situational situation, not abuse. So kind of moving forward with this, as you said, we're paying for it one way or another. I would much rather personally keep a family together than make it be a long-term problem. And my question for you is, when you were doing your research, this might be a question for your witness. How many times do you have any data on how many children are impacted by this, or how many families with children under 18 are impacted by this type of situation?
Elizabeth does, but I'm gonna read this stat for you. According to the U.S. Census Household Survey taken at the end of October of 24, 21 of adults in Georgia households with children say they're likely to be evicted in the next 2 months.
Thank you.
It's a problem, and
Thank you.
you're correct. I mean, you saw the line item. You've seen the line item to try to shore up defects. We can argue about that all day long, but it cost the state and it cost the taxpayers of Georgia a heck of a lot of money on the backside. Yep.
Okay, on to our public witnesses. Andrea Reese.
And if it's okay with the chair, once everybody speaks or whatever, if Elizabeth can close,
I've
that
got
would be
her
awesome.
last, if that's okay
Yeah,
with
that's
you, Mr.
perfect.
Chair.
Yeah, no, it's your world.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's your bill.
It's your world.
Good morning, everyone. I bring greetings on behalf of Star C, and I'm so thankful for the opportunity to be here and speak with you about this very important piece of proposed legislation. My name is Audria Reese. I am the Executive Director of Star C, that stands for Star Communities. We are a nonprofit that is 12 years old and based in the Metro Atlanta area. We focus on the social determinants of health, which are the characteristics and qualities that makes for a healthy individual and a healthy community. We, in particular, focus on youth education, wellness initiatives, food security programs, and emergency rental assistance. Since 2020, we have raised and administered over $16.5 million for emergency rental assistance right here in the Metro Atlanta area, and the bulk of that was in Cobb County through partnerships with the emergency federal funding that came down. In our work, we took in applications from families all across Metro Atlanta who were in need, people who had job loss, who had experienced illness, death, divorce, as has been said, people whose hours were cut, people who had other types of emergencies that came up, but because their financial situations were precarious, one hiccup completely derailed them and made them unable to pay their rent. These issues are ongoing, they're a part of life, and they could actually strike any of us at any moment. But for people who do not have the savings, and you may have all heard the statistics that most Americans do not have the cash to handle a $400 financial emergency or unexpected financial expense, for people in those situations, it just creates a cascade of consequences. They can't pay their rent. They can't get their car fixed to go to work. Maybe they have to take off work because of a sick child, and there's no way to make the money up. In those situations, that's when emergency rental assistance can step in and help those families to remain in their homes. We all know that an ounce of prevention beats a pound of cure, and that's what this legislation is all about, so that we can head some things off on the front end, keep people in their homes, hopefully keep the children in their schools. In this way, we can stabilize families and help them to get over those temporary situations that are causing them so many problems. By far, the vast majorities of households that we helped were families with children. There were also seniors who were impacted as well. And so this financing is needed. As has been said, it will not touch the need that is out there. In some instances, it might be a drop in the bucket. But for those families that do receive assistance, it will make all the difference in the world to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reese. Margie Stagmeyer? Yes.
Comes up, Chairman, I think it's important too to talk about over 50% of Americans have less than $500 saved to handle an issue, and 29%, if they got a surprise $400 bill, wouldn't be able to pay it. And a lot of the people that fall into this category are veterans as well. So as a state that supports veterans to the fullest, I mean,
Those percentages are pretty high.
The need.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
My name is Margie Stagmeyer. I am the owner of TI Asset Management, and I am an apartment landlord. I have owned and managed over 4,000 units across Georgia, and I also work with a lot of communities around Georgia to help them come up with affordable housing plans. In 1998, I've been around for a while. I decided to start a small little eviction relief fund because I noticed a lot of my families in Clayton County could not pay their rent. So I set aside $10,000, and I was surprised by the response. You could get up to $500 under this fund, and it was people that had were hospitalized with an emergency. It was people that had a car issue and they needed $400 to address their car issue. It was family members that were having problems of their own. And so the money went pretty quickly. So fast forward, I noticed this. I've baked this into my rental model. I always offered assistance, and I started an organization called Star C, which is Audria. And as Audria mentioned, we've raised over $16 million, but we see the gambit in our families that we house. Sometimes $500 really makes the difference. And we work with a lot of veterans. We work with a lot of everyone across the board because our apartments are mainly for families that make between 0 and 30% income every year. So, I was very excited when I saw this proposal for this bill because we see it every day, just what a little bit of prevention will do to help our families stay housed. But more importantly, in our properties, we do after-school programs and summer camps, and we see really what the impact is on the families and on the children just to be able to stay in their apartment over, it's sad to see a family have to get evicted over $1,000. So thank you so much for considering this bill.
Thank you. All righty. Our chair lady had to leave for another meeting, so I will be taking you on down the track. Don't give me any ideas now. All right, Miss Kate Henry, you're up next. Come on down. Share with us this morning. Just introduce yourself and what organization you represent, please.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to testify on behalf of House Bill 689. My name is Katie Herring, and I'm the managing attorney of the Access to Counsel program at the Atlanta Volunteer Lawyers Foundation. We're a nonprofit legal organization serving Metro Atlanta's most vulnerable residents. Specifically, we help low-income tenants find pro bono representation to solve problems they are having with their landlords. One program that AVLF is well known for is one in which we have lawyers and community advocates based in schools. We are celebrating the 10-year anniversary of this program called Standing with Our Neighbors. The primary goal of the program is to reduce school transiency by stabilizing households through access to legal representation in housing matters, including evictions, keeping children in schools, and keeping families in their communities. So I'm speaking today on from the perspective of an attorney who advocates on behalf of tenants, works to prevent evictions, housing instability, and displacement, and represents tenants in eviction proceedings. Rental assistance is a proven practical solution that mitigates the harms discussed by the other witnesses today. Through AVLF's eviction defense work, and thanks to the generosity of private donors, modest amounts of rental assistance regularly prevent eviction and stabilize families. In dozens of cases, our attorneys have been able to resolve evictions with access to privately provided funds. On average, we provide $1,800 in rental assistance per household. This small amount is an investment that preserves housing and prevents far greater downstream costs. When tenants seek assistance before an eviction filing occurs, our attorneys can often negotiate directly with property managers to preserve the tenancy. In our experience, most landlords prefer to retain reliable tenants who have fallen 1 or 2 months behind due to temporary setbacks. More than half of the tenants served through this program are employed, and the most commonly reported cause of arrears is a recent loss of income. Notably, 3/4 of these households reside in private, unsubsidized housing. Even after an eviction filing, rental assistance can resolve cases efficiently and keep tenants housed. In our experience, landlords are frequently willing to collaborate, providing documentation and allowing time for payment processing because the outcome benefits all parties. When assistance is secured, landlords dismiss the pending action and retain the tenant. The landlord is made whole, the tenant avoids displacement, the court conserves valuable time and resources otherwise spent on mediation or trial. The marshal's office avoids the additional burden of scheduling and executing another writ. AVLF's attorneys have also worked with tenants receiving rental assistance from other sources, including the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. By coordinating with these programs, we are often able to improve housing conditions, prevent displacement, and negotiate reduced fees, helping families achieve greater stability and avoid eviction. Although federal rental assistance administered through DCA expired in September of 25, the need for this support has not diminished. The loss of DCA's funding has created a significant gap that small organizations like mine do not have the capacity to fill. To preserve the demonstrated benefits of rental assistance for Georgia families, dedicated state funding is essential. Strategic rental assistance is not merely charitable. It is fiscally responsible, administratively efficient, and fundamentally humane. By stabilizing tenancies and preventing avoidable evictions, House Bill 689 represents a practical investment in Georgia's families, landlords, courts, and communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Due to the time, everyone, we're just going to continue on with our presenters, and so we can move on because we have another bill that we need to hear, and I know other people have other meetings they need to get to. So with that being said, we're going to call for Natalie. I don't want to butcher your last name, so I'll let you introduce yourself when you come up. Good morning.
Good morning, Natalie Kaiser. Thank you for the
okay.
opportunity to speak with you. I'm grateful for it. I represent an organization called House ATL. We are a membership coalition bringing together 450 members around the metro Atlanta area to work on housing affordability. So we bring together the businesses, banks, realtors, as well as the nonprofits, local governments, and philanthropy, all working together on this issue, trying to create a better ecosystem for housing affordability. So our members support this bill, obviously. So I wanted to follow up on some of the data that was shared. There was also a U.S. News survey recently that indicated that 43% of Americans could not cover an emergency expense of $1,000. And as costs have risen and workers' wages have not kept up, as you have heard, people have difficulty saving. So it's not surprising that that is the case. But a surprise medical expense, as many of us have experienced, a car accident or the death of a loved one even can create costs that quickly exceed $1,000. Some of us can borrow from a family member. I can if I need to in these situations, but there are many people whose family members are also living paycheck to paycheck. So the type of short-term assistance that Representative Carpenter's bill establishes can stabilize a family, as we have heard, and prevent that eviction filing that would occur when they miss their monthly rent payment. As we have heard, that can lead to a cycle quickly to poverty. So it can be a cause of poverty, just the eviction filing itself. Eviction disrupts works for adults, school for children, as you heard from AVLF, and results in the loss of possessions. Once evicted, a family often moves into unsafe conditions, such as an extended stay hotel or a car, as we heard. We didn't speak so much about this, but once an eviction filing, not even an eviction judgment, is on your record, a property manager often will deny your rental application. As y'all know, we're in a market, as Representative Carpenter said, where supply is short. So it favors the landlord side of the market, and property managers have lots of choices of tenants that they can bring in. So they can be very tight in their screening. So just the filing itself can make it hard for a family to overcome the obstacles to getting stably housed again. In Metro Atlanta, the Atlanta Regional Collaborative for Health Improvement, it's a handful, Archie, who Representative Carpenter mentioned previously, they created a common application for the nonprofit organizations in Atlanta to be able to work together on rental assistance. There are about 18 nonprofits that participate. And their data shows that the average request for utility assistance is about $385, and for rental assistance, it's $1,771, which is similar to the average that AVLF mentioned. So these are relatively small amounts, and they can prevent public cost, as Representative Carpenter said, and also the human trauma of being homeless. To note, Archie reports that their network currently is only able to satisfy 3% of the applications that they receive. And as he mentioned, there were thousands and thousands. I had 60,000 over 2 years, and you have a more recent number of 80-something thousand. There is a dramatic need for a state-funded program that could match and enhance local efforts with the gap that the federal funding has created. I would just will also mention the pilot program that Georgia Department of Community Affairs operated over the past couple of years with the federal funding, did partner with nonprofits, Georgia Legal Services and Atlanta Legal Aid, and was set up to have that combination of legal assistance along with emergency rental assistance that the Georgia Department of Community Affairs has discovered was needed and was very effective. As you recall, when the federal funding arrived during COVID, Georgia did not have a state emergency rental assistance program. So Department of Community Affairs had to experiment and set up the structure and figure out what would work. And when it got to the stage of doing this pilot, they had figured out what would work. And this bill replicates that type of pilot program that we learned can be very helpful here. So it's a gap, and we need it, and I really appreciate your consideration of this bill.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Miss Elizabeth Applin, you ready? You're up. Good morning. And she's our last presenter before we go back to the author of the bill.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you so much. My name is Elizabeth Apley. I'm an attorney and public policy advocate. I'm here on behalf of House ATL, Enterprise Community Partners, the Corporation for Supportive Housing, the Georgia Supportive Housing Association, 9 to 5, Presbyterians for a Better Georgia, and St. Vincent de Paul, Georgia. And you see in the materials that have been distributed the list of more than 35 organizations that support it, including the Atlanta Apartment Association, the Georgia Municipal Association, the Junior League of Atlanta, the National Rental Housing Council. These are housing providers. And so there's broad support from the faith community, from children's advocates, and from housing advocates. The state of Georgia recognized more than 35 years ago that, and this is state law, OCGA 83170, the General Assembly finds and declares that housing is an issue of paramount concern to the state, which affects the health, welfare, and safety of the citizens of the state and the economic viability and planned growth of its communities. And it goes on in OCGA 83171 to state that it is the state's policy to provide decent, safe, and affordable housing to all segments of the population of this state. I would underscore what Chairlady Camp mentioned earlier, that in Georgia, the DFACS reports that the third largest reason why children are removed from their homes and placed into foster care is housing inadequacy. 19% of children being placed into foster care in Georgia is because of housing inadequacy. So this is something we can fix by keeping families stably housed. I've also shared with you some slides from the Department of Community Affairs regarding their rental assistance program. As has been said, they set up a 2-year pilot with the final $55 million of COVID emergency rental assistance funds to pilot with legal aid and legal services, spending $25 million a year on legal assistance and emergency rental assistance. And so you see the first page makes the case for emergency rental assistance to mitigate job loss, et cetera, medical emergencies, and it points out currently there are no other statewide emergency rental assistance programs comparable to this to meet these needs. And then the next page, the department points out the implications of ending this program funding. Housing instability and homelessness, economic and financial consequences to landlords, to small property owners. They would be adversely affected. The broader economy would suffer. It puts a strain on public services and legal systems. Higher eviction rate would overload the courts, public assistance programs, shelters and nonprofits, public health and social disruptions, and rental market volatility. So this is the Department of Community Affairs speaking. We know from research that the University of Arizona did on the cost of eviction to the community when a family is evicted, when a household is evicted, it's over $11,200 for the cost of emergency shelter, inpatient medical costs, emergency room costs, child welfare costs, and child delinquency costs. So this is, as was so well said, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. the structure that is proposed in this bill, if funded by the legislature, and we're asking for $25 million to the Department of Community Affairs, which would mirror the amount that the pilot program set up with the COVID dollars used, to provide flexible local grants to local governments and nonprofits who bring their own matching funds and their own unique community needs to address the needs in those communities, supplementing what the churches and nonprofits are now doing, not to supplant it. So we know that that the need is enormous. Homelessness is growing. Family homelessness grew at an unprecedented level in the past year. And we know that children who are homeless are not able to succeed in school. They have their chronic absentee rates are far surpass those of other children. Their dropout rate, their inability to complete high school are very high, and I'm happy to provide you with all of that data. I know that the time is short. I'm happy to answer any questions. We've done enormous research. This is a fact-based approach that will save tax dollars by preventing families from falling into homelessness rather than the enormous expense of trying to help them recover once that has occurred.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I wish I could have been here.
It'll be online tomorrow.
Yeah. Representative McLean, will you state your motion, please?
Yes, Madam Chair, I do pass.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there anything further?
Yeah, we do need to update the dates because the dates in this legislation is for the January of 2026. So we need to change 26 to 27.
Okay, do I hear a motion? Chairman Camp and moved and Representative, whoa. Okay, all right, sorry. Go ahead. Who's first?
And I
Representative
apologize,
Byrd, that's okay. I jumped the gun, I'm sorry. Representative Byrd.
Thank you again. So I have a couple of questions. So if I were homeless and I need assistance to pay for my rent, how many times can I apply, and how long does that last once I come to you to apply for these funds, please?
So what I would tell you, if you're already homeless, this legislation does not address it. What I would say is if you have you're standing on the edge of homelessness, that's what this program is focused on. And each community's based organization would make that decision. I have known, for instance, my dealings with DOC up in Whitfield County is they try to do as little as possible to make it work for the people so that they can stretch those dollars. So that it's prudent for them, because we know it's unlimited funds, is to, if $400 is going to help make it happen, then they do $400. They don't do $800. Now, if you're what I would call a habitual asker, they red flag it, and so that would be on the organizations to do so. But it's in their best interest, with the understanding that the need is this big and the funds are this much, for them to make sure that they are vetting these people and it's not getting abused. Because we're not trying to put $300 million in this fund to do it. Even though there probably is a need for that much, it's saying, take these, be responsible, because there's only so much money, and stretch it as far as possible. And, I don't know, if I could see a raise of hands, how many people experienced an eviction growing up in this committee? So it's easy to sit here and throw darts at something, but if you've not been through the process, you don't know. And we're real fortunate because we had people in the community that would take care of it. Not everybody's that fortunate, so.
Chairman, I hear you loud and clear.
Thank you.
Representative Stinson.
Yes, ma'am. I just want to again reiterate what I said earlier, especially for the members. Please, the Georgia Association of Community Action Agencies, they receive state, contracts. And I encourage you to get to know the community action agency that serves your area, because there's nearly 20 in this state, and they all receive a contract from the Georgia Department of Human Services to implement community service block grants. And they have to submit a community service plan to DHS. And if they have in their plan housing, they receive funds for housing. So I encourage you, please get to know the community action agency that is in your area that gets the contract from the Georgia Department of Human Services. And again, thanks to all of the nonprofit organizations for the work that you do. So I just wanted to reiterate that, because that is so important. They get contracts every year in October. So,
Great. Chairman Casey, can you go through and give us the date changes?
Yeah.
Can you go line by line, because there's a couple of places, I think.
69 and 71.
And then
Yeah.
our attorney.
Yes, ma'am. So
us?
69, 71, and 103.
Yeah, 69, 71,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
103. Got it.
And they're just taking the 6 and making it a 7. 6, 7.
Woo. Are we okay with that? Yes, okay, our attorney has that.
That's for my children's.
Lady Camp,
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to help out Chairman Carpenter and give you those lines, but we're good since I made the motion. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Representative Kahan?
Thank you. I do want to thank the organizations that have come here to speak about this, especially, I think somebody might have touched on it, the financial literacy part of it. It's much needed so that we can actually teach people how to fish, right? And their future generations, so thank you for being here. My question is, since we have existing government agencies and we heard about a pilot already working, is there a sunset provision for this new commission to let the existing organizations take over? And for example, what we heard about the community action agencies, so important, they're doing great work, so I'm always concerned about growing another commission with a bill.
Yeah, I understand. So no, this is like I said earlier. This is already in place at DCA. This is allowing the private sector to solve. The money is flowing through from DCA into the private sector to solve the issue. So the private sector organizations are already existing as of today. This is just saying. Allowing them to take their money that they're already raising locally through various fundraising activities and supplementing it with state money will make it much more efficient and have a greater reach. So it's not going to grow. It's not going to grow a bunch of jobs at DCA. It's literally going to allow these private sectors to continue to do what they do.
Then the Housing Trust Fund for the Homeless, this is the mechanism that is within DCA already exists. The pilot program that was administering emergency rental assistance ended in September of 2025 with the end of the COVID dollars. So this is to fill the gap created by the end of that program.
But it's not saying, oh, this person at DCA is going to lose their job if we don't do this. They're already in the organization. This is just saying it's important to try to backfill that, so that we can continue to allow private sector organizations to help solve this problem.
Do I hear a motion to amend House Bill 689 to make the date changes? I have a motion. Do I hear a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, like sign. Thank you. And Representative McLean, let's try it again.
Madam Chair, I move that we do pass.
I have a motion and a second. Is there anything else? All those in favor say aye. Aye. And those opposed? No. Thank you, and the ayes have it.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay, and then let's move on quickly to House Bill 753. Hearing only. Representative Berry. Thank you, Chairman. And Ms. Epley. Thank you.
I try. Be like you. All right. Thank you. I know that the hour's getting late, and I will be brief. Proud to present to you all today House Bill 753. Working from the substitute today, LC 521043S. You might remember this is a bill that passed out of this committee unanimously last year, and of course, time ran out, so we're now back again. So what this bill does, it establishes the Better Georgia Without Blight Fund. Blighting is hurting all of us in our communities across the state, from urban to rural, suburban. Blight hurts us all. In fact, there are about an estimated 582,000 blighted properties throughout Georgia, representing about 15% of all parcels in the state. And I just want to break down the costs that we're seeing. In Atlanta, we are seeing a loss of $55 million to $153 million in lost property value. In Macon Bibb, it is a $3.5 million in lost revenue. In Augusta and Richmond, it's a loss of $900,000. So these revenue losses, they're shifting the tax burden onto working homeowners and responsible property owners, because counties still have fixed costs to meet with the fewer dollars in digest. So this is designed to fix and reverse that trend by proactively addressing blight, promoting rehabilitation, and strengthening the overall tax base. And because when blighted properties are brought back into productive use, whether through renovation, demolition followed by redevelopment, or integration into land bank programs, surrounding property values stabilize and communities become safer and more attractive places to invest, and assessments become more accurate and equitable. I want to be very clear about the fiscal impact of this legislation. It does not require a new appropriation from the General Assembly. It does not draw from the state's general fund. It just instead gives the DCA the authority to pull from existing sources of funding and grants in administering this fund. And in fact, I would argue that by restoring properties to productive use and strengthening the local tax digest, this bill is designed to increase local revenue capacity over time, not require new state spending. I believe it is a fiscally responsible approach that supports our affordability agenda here in the legislature and fairness without placing additional demands on the state budget. To the substitute, the only addition that you will see that is different from last year is on line 60 to 64, that applicants seeking rehabilitation receive a letter of support from local community organizations, associations, HOAs. What this is designed to do, I talked to several in the interim and working on this bill, and what this is designed to do is to ensure that redevelopment efforts reflect the needs and priorities of the existing communities already, rather than accelerating displacement or speculative gentrification. By requiring local backing, we add an additional layer of accountability and tighten eligibility standards, ensuring that funds only flow to projects with genuine neighborhood support and a clear public benefit. So this will strengthen oversight, reduce the risk of misuse, and keep our focus on stabilizing communities, not pricing them out. I believe that this approach protects homeowners and small business owners alike. It safeguards investments, improves neighborhood stability, and helps local governments forecast revenue with confidence. So in the simplest form, House Bill 753 is to protect homeowners, support local government fiscal health, and restore fairness in property taxation. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and I respectfully ask for your favorable consideration.
Thank you, Representative. Do I have any questions? Ooh, blank. Okay, number 9. Representative Kahan.
Thank you for this bill again, and I see the work that you put in the off season on it, and I appreciate that there's no additional funding. Absolutely on this bill, and working with the locals. Question, and maybe we can have a realtor's opinion also. For personal property rights, I know that there are sporting events coming up. If someone gets it in their head to take over a blighted property under your plan and the property owner doesn't want to, will they actually be forced to? Would there be any rights violated in that way?
The bill's not written that way. The bill is written for mostly for counties to take advantage of this, not for individuals. And so through that, this is not written in a way that anyone can just say this is blight. Again, it has very clear criteria for what is blight, based on already a state definition within our code and for the criteria to get the fund in the first place.
So the county couldn't take over if a homeowner or property owner didn't want them to?
That is not the intention of the bill, no. And I think, again, making it stronger is that local community support. So without that letter from an HOA or a civic association, they wouldn't be able to get the money anyway.
Thank you. I have a lot more questions, but I won't ask you right this minute.
We can talk on the floor.
Representative McLean.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I thank Madam Connie. Thank you for looking at line 38. That may help with code section 22-1-1. This came out of our committee last year?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so what happened? We got hung up in rules, or
hung up in rules over time.
Okay.
It was maybe the day before crossover.
Okay, Madam Chair, I was just wondering why we had hearing only. I didn't know if there was a reason, but maybe you can explain, to us, because if we've already had it and it came out of our committee, and I didn't know if there was a reason that we had hearing only.
It did come up in rules. Where did you change something? Yesterday when I asked you that, had there been changes, you said yes, there was a.
The only change is on that line 60 to 64, which is that insert in here.
Okay.
As I said, not line 60 to 63, I'm sorry, 60 to 63. And then we changed the dates from 2026 to 2027 yesterday. That is the only change, is that letter of support. And that was, again, after talking to several HOAs over the interim, who wanted more community support for local rehabilitation efforts.
And Madam Chair, that was my only concern, was because what he tried to do was make the bill a lot better and a lot more efficient by speaking to other HOAs and things, and I didn't know why we were having a hearing only and not trying to get it back to rules where it was.
Yes, sir. I was concerned about the fiscal note, and now hearing more information thank you. I appreciate that. Is there, Chairman Crow, are you the only real estate person on here right now? Oh, you're representative? Okay. I know Camp left. I'd like to hear from our two representatives that are real estate savvy. Chairman Crow.
Yeah, so to that question, and I guess it's asking kind of us to address private property rights issues. Was that your concern, Representative Cahan? Yes. Yeah, well, you just said something about having a realtor kind of weigh in on private property rights. Yeah, that's, so in my home county, in Butts County, the city of Jackson has taken on, over the last several years, a real big mission. We had a couple of old mill neighborhoods that were really, really, really in distress, and a lot of blighted properties. And they came in, and some of those properties were eventually taken over, basically abandoned by the person. So the city did take ownership of them and resold them. But all of those decisions are made through the local county ordinances and how they can do that. And so that's not anything in this bill that would deal with that. That's all done by local county ordinance as to what they can do and how they can do that. But the ones that I've seen, it's a really, really high bar. And basically the people have to have walked away from the property in order for them to take it over. And all the city does is clear it off. And then some of them have been rebuilt now. So neighborhoods have really been improved.
Thank you. Respectfully, I just want to add on as well, the intent behind this bill is just to provide that technical assistance to the counties in doing this, to provide the funding in the counties for their rehabilitation fund, not funding and rehabilitation, not taking over personal property. That's the intent behind the bill, and I do understand that counties have their own. I know this is based off of Atlanta, which has a really strong blighting program, so it's trying to create a statewide effort in blighting.
Representative Roberts.
That's actually what I was going to say is I don't see this as a bill that you're trying to take the property. I see it as an opportunity to provide funding for the blighted property so that the property around it benefits and that ultimately the property owner could benefit from the rehab. Is that correct?
Agreed, and I think in the larger context of the property tax reform that we're talking about this session, when we tackle blighting and stabilize local property revenues, we can see a better and fairer assessment of our property tax assessment as a state. So this is definitely meant to protect exactly what you said.
Okay, so I don't see it as a taking of property.
Okay, so I understand that, but where's the money coming from?
So
That's
again-
why I'm asking you for a fiscal note. That's what
Yes.
my concern was.
So yeah, there's no new money, so wouldn't technically require a fiscal note per my ask that when I've asked about the bill and worked about it, because it says that it authorizes in line 47 to 49 to apply for, receive, and administer and use any grant or other financial assistance or other funds made available to the department from any government or other source. So they can use already existing sources of funding that they have, or they can apply for other grants. But it does not add any new money to DCA already. It would just simply use the funding that they already have.
So it's grant money.
Grant money that they already have, and that's how we read it. So it's not subject to appropriations. Nothing that the General Assembly has to add on. It's already existing funds that are in DCA to use this, and they can apply for other grants as needed.
Got it. Thank you. Representative Stinson?
Well, that's pretty much what I was going to ask. If it did not require a fiscal note at this, so will it still be a hearing, or what would be the will of this committee if it's no longer required a fiscal note?
In light, let's hear the rest of the committee, and then we'll move forward. How's that? Representative Flournoy?
Yes, very quickly. I just wanted to just kind of clarify, because we're talking about the making sure there wasn't any conveyance issues. And so from a title standpoint, it sounds like the only thing that you're talking about is if there's an issue with the blighted property, then there's a grant that can be provided that would clean off or, rehab that property and not have a condemnation or anything like that where a local municipality was taken over. So the ownership would still remain same ownership, because of course, if there was something different where a county or city wanted to take it over, then that's a different process as far as condemnations, all those sorts of things. So just kind of for clarity, I think that's the intent of the bill.
Correct. This does not provide condemnations. This maintains already local ordinances. As every county is different. Jackson County, every county is different. So this maintains that every county has the ability to do what they want to do with its blighted properties. This just provides some assistance through DCA, already existing programs with DCA, assistance, funding, and technical wise, and rehabilitating those properties.
Anybody here from DCA? No. Oh, yes. You were hiding. Thank you. If you tell us who you are.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Ryan Evans. I'm the Director of External Affairs for DCA. So I'm happy to try to answer any questions you may have about this bill. Though we don't, this is, y'all are the policymakers effectively. So essentially we have programs that do some of this work already. And we'd be happy to work with the representative in the community to talk about what those are specifically and how this bill might impact those.
Thank you. In light of that information, let's leave this as a hearing today. Let's have a conversation with DCA and bring that information back, especially since we know that there's other avenues, and knowing that this is grant funding, that makes it a little easier as well.
Yeah, we're happy to do that.
Okay, great. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
This is easier than the text I was trying to send you, Nasty. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
So this isn't a department bill, and this is not, and so there wouldn't be any funding. This would be creating a new fund within y'all's department, though? Would it require additional staffing, and would it be something that y'all could operate with the staffing you already have, with folks that do some of the other programs? Could they also take this on? Just curious as to, I completely understand what he's trying to do, and I appreciate what he's trying to do. I'm just wondering what kind of a load. It may not have a funding aspect to it, but if it's going to create more resource-heavy work at the department, I think we need to look into that a little bit and make sure.
Thank you so much for that question. We haven't had the opportunity to evaluate this fully, what the staff demand would be, but we would be happy to perform that analysis on this bill.
Thank you.
Representative Jones.
So thank you so much for the bill. I do have a question, and thank you so much for being here to answer it from the department. I know that in 2021 in Macon-Bibb County, we started a program locally where our mayor used what was called Blight Elimination Revolving Loan to demolish blighted and dangerous structures. And that land, after it was cleared, was then sent to the Land Bank Authority, and then we had to go to auction to buy it. I'm a recipient of some of those sales. Is that through your department, that loan that we're using in our local community? And if so, doesn't that just further shore up what the representative is trying to provide today?
Thank you for that question. I'd have to go back and check the details of that with our Deputy Commissioner for Community Development. But my understanding is that was local funds that were used for that program specifically, and I don't believe DCA was involved in that, but I would have to verify that for the record. I'd like to take that for further consideration.
Thank you for that. I think my point was that it indeed was our local funds, and I think that for the nature of the bill that he's presenting, that's exactly what he's saying, is that it will be local monies that's already out there, shoring that up to continue to make sure that this is something that all of Georgia is doing and not just certain communities. So I just want to make sure that we're clear on that, because in the beginning of the presentation, he did say Atlanta has lost this, Macon-Bibb has lost that, and Augusta has lost that. And I think it was more the intention from me reading the bill was that we're just trying to make a situation where we're being more preventative than reactive. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Representative Stinson.
Yes, ma'am. My question is for Ms. Evans. Thank you for being here. The blight, as it was mentioned earlier about local governments having blight policies, is that something DCA requires, or do the local governments have to submit their blight policies to Department of Community Affairs?
Thank you for the question. I want to be clear. I am not the expert on blight at the Department of Community Affairs. So I would love to be able to have the folks who work in our community development group maybe educate the committee on that a little bit more. So I know that there are local comprehensive plans and service delivery strategies that may address these, but I would love for them to come in and talk about that in more detail.
Thank you.
Representative Berry, I think what I would like to do is invite DCA, and if we can put a little committee together with Crow, Stinson, Camp, Jones, and Roberts to meet with DCA. I think you're on point, but I think there's some questions that need to be hammered out before we really go forward.
Fine.
So with that, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I appreciate everybody being here so early. Have a great day.